My husband leaned over to his team of high-priced attorneys, his laugh echoing off the cold courtroom marble. "She is no lawyer," he sneered, loud enough for the gallery to hear. "This shouldn't take more than 5 minutes." He thought he had completely ruined me. For 3 years, Mark had systematically stripped away my dignity, my savings, and my confidence, leaving me with nothing but a folded piece of paper in my purse. He stood there in his $3,000 suit, utterly convinced that my silence was surrender. But when the judge took her seat, reviewed the docket, and looked past his 4 attorneys directly at me, her tone instantly changed. She didn't ask why I was representing myself. She looked Mark dead in the eye and asked, "Mr. Vance, do you have any idea who your wife actually is?" Mark's smirk vanished. The courtroom went dead silent. "My name is Claire Vance, and at 28 years old, I was supposed to be living a fairy tale life. To anyone on the outside, my 6-year marriage to Mark was a masterpiece. He was a rising biotech executive, charismatic, sharp, and effortlessly successful. Early on, Mark convinced me to step away from my own career, wrapping his control in the sweet promise of protection. 'Let me handle the stress, babe,' he'd say with that charming smile. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, he stripped away my independence, isolating me from friends and taking complete control over every single financial account we owned. I was living in a golden cage, completely unaware that the lock was tightening every day. The illusion shattered on a quiet Tuesday evening when I accidentally stumbled upon a set of hidden digital files left open on his laptop. They revealed secret offshore accounts, shell companies, and a paper trail of long-term infidelity. When I confronted him calmly and asked for a divorce, Mark didn't panic, he smiled. Within 24 hours, he froze all my bank cards, changed the locks on our home, and cut off my phone service. He served me with aggressive legal papers designed to leave me destitute, leaving me stranded in a hotel room with 1 suitcase and less than $50 in cash. Mark truly believed he had destroyed me, assuming a terrified, isolated wife would simply crumble under the weight of his power. He had no idea he was playing a game he'd already lost. 3 days after cutting me off, Mark summoned me to his attorney's glass tower office downtown. His lead lawyer tossed a thick document across the conference table with a condescending smirk. It was a brutal settlement offering a paltry $5,000 and a strict non-disclosure agreement. "Take it, Claire," Mark sneered, leaning back in his leather chair. "If you try to fight this, my legal team will drag probate out until you're sleeping in your car. You don't have the money for a lawyer, and you certainly don't have the brain for a trial." I let my lower lip tremble. I squeezed my eyes shut and nodded weakly, letting them believe I was a broken, desperate woman on the brink of complete panic. What Mark had completely forgotten in his arrogance was who I was before I ever wore his wedding ring. 5 years prior, I had earned a master's degree in corporate forensic auditing, a career I'd quietly kept up with through late-night freelance analysis while he slept. Over the next 3 weeks, while Mark celebrated his impending victory, I spent 16 hours a day in a public library, systematically digging through his firm's public SEC filings, tax disclosures, and cross-referenced foreign registries. I unraveled a massive web of hidden shell companies, offshore accounts, and fraudulent transfers. Every time Mark called to mock my silence, I played the helpless victim, letting his massive ego inflate so he would become completely careless. He was walking directly into a trap he never saw coming. The day of the final hearing arrived, cold and overcast. Mark strutted into the courtroom flanked by a formidable 4-person legal team, his polished shoes clicking loudly on the marble floor. As I took my seat alone at the defense table with only a thin manila folder, Mark leaned over to his attorneys and sneered loud enough for the gallery to hear, "She is no lawyer. This shouldn't take more than 5 minutes." His team chuckled arrogantly, shuffling their thick stacks of motions designed to strip me of everything. They saw an easy target, a frightened, isolated woman standing entirely defenseless against a $1 million legal army. A heavy hush fell over the room as Judge Rebecca Thorne stepped onto the bench. But instead of calling the standard opening statements, she adjusted her glasses, staring intently at the certified evidence packet I had quietly filed directly with a federal clerk 48 hours prior. Her expression turned from routine indifference to absolute ice. She slowly set the documents down, her sharp gaze sweeping past Mark's 4 high-priced lawyers and locking directly onto my husband. "Mr. Vance," the judge asked, her voice ringing clear and deadly across the silent courtroom, "do you have any idea who your wife actually is?" Mark's smug smile instantly vanished. He glanced nervously at his lead attorney, whose face had gone completely pale as the judge opened my file. Judge Thorne didn't wait for Mark to answer. She opened the certified evidence packet I had prepared, pulling out dozens of color-coded financial flowcharts and audited bank ledgers. Page by page, she read aloud the systematic fraud I had uncovered: over $3 million in offshore shell accounts, altered corporate tax filings, and deliberate asset concealment meant to defraud both me and the federal government. With every word, Mark's lead attorney looked more horrified. He frantically began whispering to Mark, realizing in real time that continuing to defend him would make their prestigious firm complicit in ongoing federal financial crimes. Mark sat paralyzed, his chest heaving as the color drained completely from his face. "Your Honor," Mark's attorney stuttered, standing on trembling legs, "we request an immediate recess to review these unexpected documents." Judge Thorne slammed her gavel down with a deafening crack. "Request denied, counsel," she boomed. "Your client did not just attempt to commit perjury and fraud in my courtroom. He committed wire fraud and grand embezzlement across multiple state lines." Right then and there, the judge issued an emergency court order freezing every single corporate and personal bank account Mark owned. She officially tossed our prenuptial agreement into the trash as null and void due to deliberate fraud, and immediately contacted the Department of Justice to send federal agents to the courtroom lobby. Mark's empire didn't just crumble, it completely exploded in front of his eyes. As the hearing adjourned, 2 federal agents stepped through the courtroom doors, placing Mark in handcuffs right in front of his useless legal team and the stunned gallery. The man who had sneered at me hours earlier was led away sobbing, begging his attorneys to do something, but they had already walked away to protect themselves. In the months that followed, Mark's biotech firm collapsed under the weight of federal indictments, and he was sentenced to 6 years in federal prison. Because of the evidence I provided, the court awarded me my full 50% share of our true marital estate, along with a substantial whistleblower reward from the regulatory board for exposing his corporate embezzlement. I took that money, moved to a coastal town, and built my life back from scratch. Today, I run my own financial consulting firm dedicated to helping vulnerable spouses recognize financial abuse and regain their independence. Mark thought stripping away my money would leave me powerless, forgetting that true strength isn't built on a bank account. It's built on resilience and truth. Never let anyone make you feel small, and never let them mistake your quiet patience for weakness. If you enjoyed this story, please drop a comment with the city you're watching from so I can see how far my story has reached, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this.